Hello, I am Sondra Rapoport, Roman historian, and I am here this week at the beach to talk to you about ancient shipwrecks. Ancient shipwrecks fall under the Department of Underwater Archaeology or Marine Archaeology, which is archaeological excavations and study under the water, which is fraught with a number of difficulties that you don't find in land-based archaeology. Look at the ocean behind me. It's changing, it's moving. This can be a dig site. Under archaeology is very a challenging field of study. Shipwrecks are time capsules for the future. Silt and sediment on the bottoms of oceans, lakes, and large rivers will cover the wreck and preserve it for future generations. And it'll preserve it from the weathering effects of the ocean. Normally, a wooden ship would not survive in these waters, but the protective layer of silt will act as a seal of sorts and allow the wood to survive. This allows us in the modern age to study the construction methods and features of these ancient ships, often revealing that the ancients were more advanced than we had previously believed. Shipwrecks also tell us about life in the ancient world. Though the remains of goods we find on these wrecks, we are learning about the story of ancient trade. Rome was a bustling international city in the ancient world. While 2,000 years ago, they were by no means lacking in luxury. Trade is what supports this, and there was a lot of it. Olive oil from Greece, perfumes, spices from Egypt, etc. Much like today, shipping is an essential part of international trade, and the sea lanes would have been bustling to keep up with the demands. Sailing in the ancient world was treacherous, and rough seas would often sink ancient ships. There are many examples of ancient wrecks of merchant vessels that contain amphorae, the two-handled clay vessels of the Roman world that would have contained olive oils, wines, the fish scarum, fresh fruits, olives, and more. Often these amphorae were still found intact with their seals in place, allowing us to sample and study the contents inside. These ships contain other luxury and practical goods needed for a large city like Rome. These amphorae and these other goods actually help preserve the wrecks, as the weight of these goods would help push the ship further into the silt and allow more of it to be preserved from the ocean waters. One of my favorite ancient shipwrecks are those containing bronze. Beautiful examples of classical, Hellenistic, Roman art, and other fabulous bronze objects can be found as cargo in a shipwreck, as these items were being taken and collected and displayed from Greece to Rome, as Rome conquered Greece at this time. Or sometimes the bronzes had been damaged and were meant for remelting and remaking into statuary or one of the other things that Romans would use bronze, for example, coins. The Naples Archaeological Museum has a fabulous exhibit right now on underwater archaeology, the process and the results. The excavation of objects that have been immersed in salt water for many, many years has its own set of challenges. Often these objects have to be stabilized chemically in order to prevent further decay, but the results are stunning. The wonder of the sculpture and the everyday objects give us a completely new look at the ancient world, unique, preserving the ruined beauty for us to enjoy now. One example of a well-known ancient wreck is that of Caligula's extremely large vessels that sailed on Lake Neme. These were intended for pleasure cruising only and were luxurious. Impressive examples of Roman skill as well. When the remains of these ships were uncovered in the 1920s, amazing things were found. Caligula had gone all out. And when it's a Roman emperor, that can take on a whole new meaning. There were two of these massive ships. One was a temple ship dedicated to the goddess Diana, and the other one was a ship for Caligula to hang out on with his friends. These had mosaic floors with underfloor heating, this beautiful marble column bases, hot and cold running water, a bath, amazing statuary, and other beautiful examples of artistic skill throughout the whole entire ship. The Romans were masters of plumbing. which is why the ships had hot and cold running water and a bath. But there were also items found amongst the ruins of the ship that were that were resembling modern plumbing, like a bronze tap they found that looks and works almost exactly like the ones we use now and is constructed in a similar manner. These wrecks are particularly interesting because they were well known to the locals and could occasionally be seen through the waters of Lake Nemi. Over the years, many attempts to salvage the ships and the items were made, and pieces of statuary and amphorae and such were recovered. However, it wasn't until the time of Mussolini that the excavation and recovery of Caligula's ships at Nemi became important. Why? Because of the same theme I keep touching on in each lecture: the concept of legitimacy and the power of imagery. Mussolini was trying to connect himself to the power of ancient Rome in order to legitimize himself in a fascist regime. And one of the ways that he did this was through archaeological excavation. The recovery of these ships would be a powerful message for Mussolini, as he was, in a sense, bringing back the Roman world. This will also be a subject for a future talk. The recovery of these ships was also an impressive feat of engineering, as the lake was lowered to expose the ships with help from an ancient Roman. When these ships were recovered, the preservation of the wooden structure was excellent, as well as the objects inside. The silt had saved the day again. As these ships were studied, so much was learned about how the ships were made at the time, and they were amazing examples of the height of Roman skill and also of Caligula's opulence. These ships were a symbol to Caligula of his power as emperor, but they were also symbols to the people of his misuse of that power. These ships did not sink. They were scuttled. And unfortunately also for these ships, while a museum was constructed to house these two massive pleasure ships, it was burnt by the Nazis as they left Italy, and almost nothing remains today of Caligula's two pleasure ships. Another well-known example I would like to talk about is the wreck of the Mary Rose. While it's not ancient, it is late Renaissance, early medieval. And this ship, the pride of Henry VIII's newly growing navy, sunk in 1545 and was recovered in 1982. The recovery process was long and delicate, but the same remarkable occurrence of preservation via silt had occurred. When the Mary Rose sunk, it keeled over on one side, and the open gun ports allowed the water to enter and sink the vessel. Its weight and years of currents allowed that protective silt layer to build up. And while silt can be difficult to work around and remove, the results, in the case of the Mary Rose, allowed for the recovery of the ship and for thousands of objects, as well as the sizable guns that made the Mary Rose such a formidable ship over the years that had sailed. It is a time capsule from the time period of Henry VIII, and now is a lovely museum in Portsmouth in the UK, and provides us with a chance to see the daily lives of the sailors of the 1500s, and also to study shipmaking styles. Again, showing us that the shipbuilders of Henry VIII's time were more advanced than we had first understood. So this brings me to, again, one of my favorite things, when ancient history makes the news. This week, if you've been reading in the BBC, you would have read about the seafood shop in Spain that had been displaying Roman amphorae and an anchor from the 1800s as decor in the shop. These items may have been recovered from a variety of the wrecks that are commonly found off the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The problem with this situation that is against UNESCO rules to take from a shipwreck, particularly an ancient one, without being part of a sanctioned underwater archaeological excavation or some sort of sanctioned underwater recovery activity. In short, if you're diving off the coast and you find a wreck, tell the authorities. Please let trained archaeologists have a chance to learn from the unspoiled site. Chances are pretty high that they will keep you updated on all of the awesome finds. It is so much better to help the cause of human knowledge than to make a few bucks selling something you found. So that is what I have to tell you tonight about ancient shipwrecks. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again next week. Have a lovely evening.